Okay, so I think you can see my screen now. So now we will present to you what to eat in order to harm the environment less. First, we'll start off with a couple of foods that are bad for our environment. And you may find shocking, but 14.5% of global climate changing gases are due to meat and dairy production, and this is more than all forms of transport.
Okay, so I'm going to be telling you about why the production of beef has the biggest negative impact on Earth. Cows are ruminants, which means that they can acquire nutrients from plant based foods by fermenting them first. Methane is produced from this fermentation, and methane is a greenhouse gas which is 25 times stronger than carbon dioxide. And that is why the highest carbon footprint comes from cows. Also, a lot of land and many resources are required for cattle. Between 10 and 14 pounds of feed are needed for only 1 pound of beef. And this is why there is so much deforestation in our world today.
The next food is lamb, and it is again a ruminant animal, and it requires significantly more energy-intensive feed in order to generate more manure, and it produces 50% more greenhouse gas emissions per kilogram than beef, and it provides less edible meat. That's why it is the worst animal protein for our environment. And its carbon footprint is 55 pounds of carbon dioxide per pound of meat.
Surprisingly, fish is also very harmful to the environment. Tuna is very overfished, and that is why tuna population is declining severely. Also, most salmon is farmed, which means that there are a lot of chemicals, parasites, and food waste, which might pollute water and become a danger to the environment. Bananas are also very harmful to the environment because the transportation of bananas from South America to other countries causes a lot of carbon emissions. And also, bananas have a high spoilage rate, which results in wasted mass being produced. And that is why bananas have such a high environmental cost.
Here you can see that asparagus is one of the few vegetables with heavy carbon footprint. It's about 20 pounds of carbon dioxide per pound. And again, as bananas, it has less to do with cultivation, rather more to do with carbon dioxide produced during transportation. Because it is flown from one place to another, it increases the amount of greenhouse gases. I think you're Fatima again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, Large amounts of water are needed for sugar production, and the approximate estimate amount is 88 gallons of water required for only 5 pounds of sugar. Also, fertilizers are needed for its cultivation, and that is why freshwater rivers and streams get very polluted.
Palm oil is another food that is bad for our environment. It can be found in 10% of our groceries. For example, chips, crackers, candy, margarine, cereals, chocolate, or even cookies. And humanity's insatiable demand for palm oil contributes to deforestation because forests are clearing in order to grow oil palm trees. This contributes to global warming and even to habitat loss. And here you can see that white bread is more harmful to the environment than brown bread, because when white flour is refined, it goes through a series of alteration processes, while whole wheat flour spends less time in production, And this way, ingredient that requires extensive refining requires more energy and resources. And due to this, it has greater impact on the planet.
Next, we have chocolate, which surprisingly for all of us is also very harmful um, food for the environment. The cocoa tree is a very complicated plant because it requires a lot of resources and processes for its cultivation. First of all, it requires 2,400 liters of water just to make 100 grams of chocolate. Um, it also puts a lot of strain on natural ecosystems, and it requires fermentation, roasting, adding milk and sugar, which are a lot of additional resources, which basically increases the environmental impact a lot. The next food is rice. Rice requires huge amounts of water in order to grow properly. Um, Generally, the required amount of water for 1 kilogram of rice is 3,400 liters of water. Rice also releases methane, which pollutes the air significantly. Usually, rice produces 100 million tons of methane per year. Avocado is another of the few vegetables which are harmful for the environment. It is so because it's another vegetable that requires a lot of water for its production. And usually, when it's not grown in its native climate, it limits a lot of resources in the new place, mainly, again, the usage of water. And the last one is high fructose corn syrup. Corn is a vegetable which is a monoculture, which means that it depletes soil nutrients, increases erosion, and requires additional pesticides and fertilizers. Um, Corn syrup is found in cereals, baked goods, beverages, sauces, snacks, and almost all similar foods we can think of. And the producing of this high fructose corn syrup is an energy intensive practice and very harmful for the environment.
Now let's see what we can do in order to help our planet.
One thing we can do in order to protect the environment is exchange meat for legumes. Beans and lentils have a very low carbon and water footprint. Lentils' carbon footprint is 43 times less than that of beef. Also, beans and lentils contain a lot of nutrients, fiber, and protein. Lentils can also clean and fortify soil, which makes it easier to grow other crops.
Another thing is we can eat more sustainable foods. And an example of them are tomatoes and tofu. It is quite, it is, okay, so only 1 kilogram of carbon dioxide is produced per kilogram consumed of tomatoes. And this is a lot less than the stats we already told you about meat. So it is a good idea if even if you have backyard at where you live, to maybe try and grow tomatoes because they're easy to grow. And tofu, it has 13 times fewer greenhouse gases emissions than beef, and it is also a good source of protein and contains all 9 essential amino acids.
And another solution for the environment might be the seasonal food. Seasonal food is often fresher, tastier, and more nutritious than the normal food we eat every day. It also uses a lot less environmental resources. Some examples of seasonal food are the following. So for spring, we can eat apricots, artichokes, carrots, peas, spinach. In the summer, we can eat cucumbers, zucchini, cherries, berries, melon, all kinds of fruits that grow then. In the autumn, we can eat more vegetables like broccoli, eggplant, pumpkin, potatoes. And in the winter, we can try the new kale, clementine, Brussels sprout, or pomegranate.
So thank you for your attention.
Muchas gracias.